The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy, the final event of the PGA Tour season, the Wyndham Championship research, picks, guessing the odds, complete statistical breakdown, course overview, plus a look at some of the PME Cup, Underdog FedEx Cup playoff drafts, which you can get into right now in the drafts lobby of Underdog Fantasy. Use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $200 and use fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get yourself 20% off all of the tools you'll need to do your research, both for picks this week and beyond. Into the drafts, that is. So I did want to take a quick look at the FedEx Cup drafts for a moment over on Underdog, because the Wyndham Championship is the last time you're going to get to accrue FedEx Cup points and try to get into the playoffs. The playoffs are the top 70 in the FedEx Cup standings to get into Memphis next week. It's top 50 after that, and then it's top 30 who get to Eastlake in Atlanta 3 weeks from now to compete for that $40 million at the very top of the FedEx Cup standings. Now, because of this, you're going to lose like 50 people who are going to have to either get their card or have to go play on Korn Ferry in their playoffs in order to get everything back onto the PGA Tour, for them at least. It used to be top 125. Now, I don't like the top 70 because I think it really kills us for two of the better fields of the year, which used to be the top 100 or top 125 at St. Jude, and then the top 100 or top 70, depending on which year you were talking about for the BMW Championship. Now, making them no-cut events is kind of boring, but it has kind of not saved, because I love the Wyndham Championship. In fact, I'm going to be at the Wyndham Championship on Saturday and Sunday. So if you're in Greensboro, or if you're going to go, hit me up on the old X machine at the PME and have a beer, hang out for a bit. It'll be a lot of fun because I'm just going to be cruising the course. I love the Wyndham Championship, one of my favorite events of the year, but because it's the top 70 in ties for the FedEx Cup playoffs now, you're seeing a lot of people on that bubble. Some bigger names that you normally wouldn't see show up to Greensboro arrive, or even guys that are jockeying for better position going into the playoffs to make sure that they don't have to do quite as much, and they're going to end up playing like 4 weeks in a row at this point. So I do want to jump over to the FedEx Cup standings just very quickly, and when we get into the Underdog drafts that I've already completed, you'll see what I'm talking about with this. A lot of it has to do with like within the draft. So we'll just get to my draft. So if you go to Underdog right now, again, code Mayo, you go up to drafts up in the top left. And then you go, I will go to completed drafts because that's what I'm looking for right now. And I'll go to the last team that I've drafted. This one in the PME Cup. It's $25 to play, flat payouts. It's great. You should definitely go do it. So this is the team that I drafted. You draft 10 players over 6 rounds. Now, obviously, only top 70 end up making the playoffs, and we don't know exactly who that's going to be as of right now. Let's try to see here. Where can we see the grid for the entire draft? There we go. So we can see how all the picks went. So I had pick number 2 in this draft. I ended up taking Xander. I had pick number 1 in a draft a little bit earlier, and I ended up picking Scotty number 1. I don't think that's outrageous to really think about right now, but that's probably where most people are going to go. He is going 1-2. Maybe if Xander ends up winning the gold medal and going into the playoffs, then Xander starts going number 1. But these two are going to be really where you're going to start your drafts. After that, you can kind of do anything you want to do. So you can see like Rory, Morikawa, Ludwig, Cantlay. So Cantlay, Sungjae on the turn. Then you get Hideki and Finau, Sahith. I ended up taking Henley with my next pick, and Justin Thomas. Not that I think that Henley and Justin Thomas are better than some of the players behind them. Like Wyndham Clark would have been another good pick here because he's fallen to the 3rd round right now, and he is currently 5th in FedEx Cup points. The whole key to this is you need to have as many guys make it to Eastlake as possible. Now, presumably, you do want players to play well going into the finals, but you need that safety. You need to accrue as many points as possible, fantasy points on Underdog, and Wyndham Clark is going to Eastlake. He's inside the top 5. Basically everyone, not a guarantee, but basically everyone inside the top 20 is going to find their way to Eastlake. That's why I took Justin Thomas. He's number 19. How is he number 19? I really don't know. Must be some high finishes in tournaments that I don't really remember. Yeah, he's playing bad golf right now. Like Matthew Pavon, great pick. He's going to be at Eastlake. Henley, great pick, is going to be at Eastlake. Pavon is the one who's kind of falling down. You can see just people falling down the charts a little bit. So Pavon goes in the 4th round. Hoagie goes in the 4th round as well. Hey, Justin McMahon was one who took Tom Hoagie. Brian Harmon is another one who's up there right now. So then after that, I kind of scroll down to this range. Like guys that need to play pretty well in order to move on. I think this is where you're going to find the most value because when people look at it, they think, oh yeah, Chris Kirk, Billy Horschel, even Davis Thompson at this point. Jason, I can't believe Jason Day is 23rd in the standings. Or even Bezadenhout, like that 22 to 30 range into your Jaggers, Dietrichs, Homa, Poston, Cam Young, Siwoo, Fitz, who just withdrew with an injury from the Olympics, thumb injury. Not sure whether or not we're going to see him or not. Nor and Tom Kim. Like these guys need to play well in the playoffs against really good fields in order to find themselves in the Tour Championship at Eastlake. So if you think they're like, Adam Hadwin's not going to get the job done, you can't take Adam Hadwin. However, I would kind of push back is if they have one good tournament of the two, anyone in this range, they probably earn enough points in order to get themselves in. So like Hadwin and Siwoo end up becoming really good picks. I think at least, if you think that they can play well. And they don't need to do as much as some of the guys later on down the list. So you can see like I took Horschel, who's inside the top 30 right now. You see Tom Kim is just outside of it. Siwoo just outside of it. Adam Hadwin just outside of it. I ended up taking Will Zalatoris as well because, obviously he's been god-awful. But he is still, T45 right now in the FedEx Cup? So he's almost assuredly going to be in the BMW Championship. He's won in Memphis before. I've also taken Harris English from the precipice here as well at T48. It's just a lot of people are going down the list. And they're like, Jordan Spieth and Minwoo are really big names. And both of them are in the field at the Wyndham this week, by the way. And saying, they're going to play well. They're going to get themselves in. They're going to go on a heater. You probably just, odds would dictate you just get Memphis out of them. Same with Griot. Same with Vegas. Same with Power. One player from this collection is going to play themselves in to the BMW Championship. Maybe 3 of them. Maybe 4 of them will end up doing that. But it's not going to be a lot. Most of these guys we're not going to see again after the first round of the playoffs. So taking the guys nearest at the top, if you believe, like Hovland might not make it to inside the BMW Championship. Like he's just having a terrible Olympics. He's having a bad season, and he's outside that bubble right now to get into the second event. Like where's Hovland going in these drafts? He's going in the 4th round. Like he's probably not going to make it to round 2. Now, do you bet on his talent and say that, hey, if he gets it going, obviously he's going to end up going to the very top of the list. And if he ends up making it to Eastlake, he's probably had the best run of anyone through the first 2 events. I think you can make that case, but you're banking an awful lot on the Hovland upside here versus guys who are almost assuredly going to be in. So I think it depends on which strategy you want to take. You can have up to 10 teams in the PME Cup right now, and I do think it is getting fuller and fuller as the day goes on. So yeah, the PME Cup, it's almost half full right now. Yeah, 43.6% full as we speak. $2,000 to first, $1,000, 900, 880, 700, 600. So very flat payouts if you do well. You're not penalized for not coming in first in this regard. But a lot of people are going to wait until we know exactly what the FedEx Cup standings are. There's a chance that this tournament might not be open by then. So if you do want to get on these drafts, and obviously there's a ton of NFL drafts on the go. I've been doing a ton of NFL content on Mayo Media Network and on the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast that you should most definitely go check out. If you're really starting to jump back in right now, Jake and I have done a full preview series. The next one I have coming out is actually with Mike Leone on Tuesday for the AFC East. That's a fun one. And we get into strategy of best ball versus season long. So depending on what you're into that way, you can find a lot of value in that show. But you can see all these awesome ones, like, prizes, $1 million in prizes, $2 million in prizes, $1 million in prizes. So there's everything for almost every level that you want on Underdog. Again, hit the description. You get the direct link to it, or just use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy and get that deposit bonus of up to $250. Okay, it's time to talk about the course and tournament for the Wyndham Championship. There's 156 players in this field, a very strong field because, as we just saw with the FedEx Cup playoffs, there's a couple big names on that bubble who need to protect their spot in the playoffs. It's very valuable to be in the playoffs. Top 65 and ties make the cut after 36 holes. Thursday, August 8th is the first tee from Greensboro, North Carolina. Lucas Glover is the defending champion. It was the first of his back-to-back victories on the PGA Tour. He won the Wyndham Championship, and then he won again at the FedEx St. Jude for the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Sedgefield CC is the course, 7,131 yards, par 70 on Bermuda grass greens. The key stats that I'm going to be looking at, and more on that a little bit later on when we dig into my modeling on fantasynational.com. fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself that 20% off. The main ones I'm looking for: strokes gained approach, par 4s gained from 400 to 450 yards, strokes gained putting, and eagles gained. 7 of the past 8 champions have gone over, or I guess under, 20 under par in their victories, with strokes gained approach and strokes gained putting being twice as impactful to the top 5 finishers on the leaderboard than anything over the last decade at this course. The Bermuda greens putting surfaces are around tour average at 6,500 square feet, but they typically run faster than your PGA Tour regular events. And there's just 2 par 5s on the layup, but both are reachable by basically every player in the field. Number 5 has a 6.4% eagle rate, while number 15 has a 4.1% eagle rate. It's the 8 par 4s measuring between 450 and 400 and 450 yards that are going to end up being the separator. When we dig in, we'll see who leads in those categories. So beyond Eastlake and Detroit CC, this is the other Donald Ross rotational course. Now, I don't really feel, because it's an amalgamation of 2 separate courses, the location being in Detroit, I don't find that Detroit CC really has much in common with Sedgefield, but Eastlake does. We've seen a lot of crossover between Eastlake and the Wyndham Championship, although you don't normally get many of the top players at Sedgefield like you do during the Tour Championship, for very obvious reasons that these guys don't need to play the last event of the regular season. But a lot of even those like mid-tier guys, be it a Ryan Moore or Russell Henley or Hideki Matsuyama, even when Hideki used to play in this one, that you would see a lot of crossover between those. But the ones that I'd be really looking for, like, it's Harbour Town, TPC Sawgrass, and Sedgefield. We've just seen a lot of players win or even compete in a lot of those. I mean, Siwoo has a win, and a second at those. Sea Island would be another one that you could look at for the RSM Classic if you're looking for a lower tier of player, a lot of guys who end up being in this field. Sungjae has had a lot of success. JT Poston has won this event. He has come second at the Heritage. He's also won the John Deere. So JT Poston has won the John Deere, and Lucas Glover has won the John Deere within the past 4 years. They've also won this tournament within the past 4 years. So there's a lot of different types of courses, but you can see that they're on the shorter end. They're ones that require a lot of streaky putting and a lot of streaky irons. But guys that have played well at those courses over the years are the ones that you probably want to go with. Taking a look at the past champions at this course, I mentioned Lucas Glover was the winner a year ago at -20. And he was the best player on the course during moving day. He shot a 62. That was 3 better than the 2 eventual runners-up. And you need to be great. The top 3 finishers all gained over 4 strokes on approach and putting last year. Glover was plus 9.1 strokes on approach, 3 full strokes ahead of anyone else in the tournament. 2022 was a very fun breakout, and it was I think the last time I won the PME Open. Not that that exists anymore, but I was having a terrible year. I was complaining about how much I've lost on golf, and then boom, had the trifecta at the Wyndham Championship, having Tom Kim, John and Sungjae Im all on the same roster, and that's how it was. Tom Kim won at -25 clear of Johnny question marks and Sungjae Im. A Sunday 61 did it all. Johnny question marks did it on Thursday. He opened with the 61. Snedeker opened with a 59 here one year as well, and when he ended up winning in 2018. But that was 6 shots better than and 7 better than Sungjae in the final round. And Kim wasn't a top 30 tee to green player for the week, but he happened to gain 12.5 strokes putting, more than double anyone else in the field, more than double anyone at any other point of his career up to that point. In 2021, Kisner won in a playoff over Brennan Grace, Kim, Kevin Na, Adam Scott, and Roger Sloan. I vividly recall basically all of us were on Roger Sloan that week. A lot of people were on Adam Scott. I had Siwoo and Na. A lot of people had Brendan Gray. So almost anyone you would talk to who bets on golf, plays DraftKings on golf, had all of the losers in the playoff. Basically, no one had Kevin Kisner, and Adam Scott actually had a putt to win this tournament in the playoff. First playoff hole from like 3 feet and missed it. Kisner's best round was a 65 on Thursday, but he was nothing worse than 68 all week. And 10 of the top 14 finishers lost distance off the tee. However, 12 of them gained in good drives gained, meaning they were hitting a ton of greens in regulation. Again, circling back to what we normally see with iron play. And one of the biggest outliers I can remember, mainly because I had Billy Horschel, 2020, Jim Herman, the Herminator, won at minus 21, one clear of Billy Horschel. Herman went 66, 69, just, to make the cut. For the first 2 rounds. Horschel was up on him by 5. Herman went 61-63, the best round of the day Saturday, the best round of the day Sunday. He was never heard from again. The top 8 on the final leaderboard all gained strokes putting from that predictive 10 to 15 foot window. Zach Johnson was the best from that range, allowing him a T7 finish of the week, even though he had lost strokes putting from 0 to 5 feet, 5 to 10 feet, and beyond 25 feet. And then finally, JT Poston won at minus 22, one clear of Webb Simpson and Ben An. Ben An had it going, had not made a bogey, I believe, until the 71st hole of the tournament. He ended up losing by 2 to JT Poston. CT Pan was very much in the mix, and he went OB either on 17 or 18 to take himself out of it. Poston didn't play either of the 2 weeks prior to winning the event. 3 weeks prior, he missed the cut at the John Deere, but he posted the second best strokes gained approach career of his career during that win. It was tough to see coming because he had lost strokes on approach in 4 of his 6 tournaments previous. So we've seen a lot of outsider winners, I would say. Not necessarily outsider winners, but out of nowhere type winners of what we would try to think about predictability moving into things, but they all do line up with either good comps at other courses that we've identified, be it Harbortown, RSM, the John Deere, or Sawgrass, depending on the level of player that you're looking at. And they make sense when you retroactively go back and look at it. Whether or not you're on them that week, well, that we don't know. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Supercharger, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Everyone who tunes into the Pat Mayo Experience knows from time to time I like to talk to you about some health supplements that I end up taking, and I've been doing Timeline's Mito Pure now for about a month. Feel great, and I think you can too. Take 2 soft gels a day for 2 months, and you can see significant improvements in your cellular energy, your muscle strength, and your endurance. That was the big thing. I've been golfing more this summer and lifting less. Yet when I go back to the gym for my once a week max lift, I'm not really atrophying that much. I'm not losing a ton of muscle, which is absolutely fantastic news for me and my golf game, because if you work out too much, then you get too sore, you get too stiff, you need to retain that flexibility. I'm retaining my muscle mass at the same time, although I'm not working out as much, and it comes in 2 product designs to fit your needs. They're berry powder, which is great to mix into your breakfast, yogurt, or daily smoothie. That's how I've been doing it. I've been eating some strawberries, raspberries, blackberries with a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of protein powder, then boom, Timeline's Mito Pure right on top of that. Or they have soft gels for the days where you're just on the run and wanted something convenient to grab and go. So, Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of Mito Pure right now. So go to timeline.com/Mayo to get that 10% off. All right? So let's jump over to fantasynational.com right now to take a look at the scorecard and figure out what's going on. You can see 18th is the most difficult hole on the course. Almost a quarter of the field bogeys it coming in. 3.5% make double bogey on number 18. So a very tough closing stretch. And you can see even on the back nine, number 10, 1 in 5 people. 1 in 5 people basically bogey 10, 11, 12, and 14. So, that's not great coming in, but there's a lot of easy holes coming in as well. So 16, 20% birdie rate, 55% birdie or better rate for number 15, 25%-ish for number 13. So you have to be able to tread the water on the hard holes and then go make your birdies when it kind of pops up. As I said, more than double approach and putting for the top 10 finishers. That gets even wider once we think about the top 5. You can see per round over a stroke on approach and over a stroke putting, where it's a quarter of a stroke or a third of a stroke around the green, a half stroke off the tee, just because you don't need to be a bomber here. It's a lot like Heritage and John Deere in that aspect of, look, you can be I just mentioned all of the winners who've played here over the past 6 years. None of them are bombers. None of them. You can bomb and gouge if you want to. It's just absolutely not necessary at this course. You see those are the 8 par 4s, 400 to 450 yards. That's why you don't need to be a bomber, because I can, if it's a 450-yard hole, if I hit my 260-yard drive, I'm going to be a ways out. I'm not a great iron player, but for these guys, they can just punch it out there like 280 and then hit, a 9-iron in? It's going to be fine for most players. You can see the plurality of approach shots from 150 to 175 yards. After that, it's actually 125 to 150, about the same as 175 and 200 plus, which is not typical for any sort of tournament. So 175 and in is where you're seeing most of the shots this week. Accuracy a little bit higher at 62%, greens and regulation at 73%, scrambling about tour average. And we've seen some very, very, very low rounds here over the years. I mentioned the 59 from Snedeker, the dueling 61s, the Tom Kim, Johnny year, and then just guys making 65. The most common score that you see from the field is 68, then 67, then 69. And the cut line, where's the cut line? There we are. Historic cut line last year was -1. Even the year before that, -2, -2, -3, -2, -2, -2, -2. So somewhere in that even to -2 range is likely where you're going to find it. Most, I would say, -2 looks to be your best bet. Although the last 2 years it has played a little bit more difficult. They have been growing up the second cut of rough a little bit higher because this tournament is so impactful to the FedEx Cup standings that I do think they want to make it a bit more of a challenge this time around. So we'll go over to the stat modeling on the main page of Fantasy National, although we can take a look at the tournament history just very briefly in terms of strokes gained to see how people have done over the past 5 years. Webb Simpson, despite WDing in 2022, has 4 top 10s in his other 4 starts. Sungjae, Horschel, Siwoo, Poston. Of this collection of players, Siwoo, Poston, and Webb are the only winners of that bunch. Siwoo got his win. It was his first breakthrough. I think it was in 2015, 2016. A ways back, but he's still been 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 33rd, and a WD. That WD year is tough. WD from Webb, Siwoo, and Kevin Kisner. Yikes. And that was the year after Kevin Kisner ended up winning. The Todd father has played really well here each of the past 3 years. Take a look overall at last year's leaderboard. Michael Kim found himself inside the top 5. There's Cam Davis again, who does have a good Donald Ross crossover. Hell, he just won another Donald Ross event, his second Rocket Mortgage Classic. But you see Svensson, T7. Svensson's actually quite interesting this week. I believe he won the RSM when he ended up winning that one. And just tee to green, he continues to play really good. He just can't putt to save his life, which is not anything new for him. But I do find typically he does putt better on Bermuda than anything else. Although this year he's just been abject failure everywhere when it comes to putting. But the past 2 turns, the past 2 years at the Wyndham, he's actually putted quite well on these surfaces. So I don't know if it's going to be muscle memory for him or not, but he gained 5.4 a year ago and 2.2 the year before that. Sungjae, 3 top 10s in the past 5 years, top 25 each of those years. Jaeger, top 15s each of the past 2 years. See, Taylor Moore has played this really well. Putnam and Reevy have made the cut each of the past 2 years. Siwoo was T33 last year, but I had mentioned he had the 3 top 10s before the WD with a win ages ago at this tournament. So there's many different ways that we can kind of take this on, but you'll just see it's a lot of players in this field who normally don't play it. Zalatoris, Brian Harmon, Justin Rose, Vegas, although he has just squeaked into the FedEx Cup playoffs, he needs another good. If he doesn't finish inside, if he doesn't make the cut this week, he probably doesn't make the playoffs despite winning 2 weeks ago. Berger, Power. So a lot of these guys directly on the edge of the playoffs are trying to play themselves in. You even see Nick Taylor, who just needs to find some form to speak of. Keith Mitchell is another one. Luke List. Bobby Mack, who's well inside, could get himself into the top 10 and almost guarantee himself a spot at East Lake. He is someone to really look out for this week. He did not play in the Olympics. However, the courses that he's beat up on so far this year, he won in Hamilton and he won overseas. Again, those were not Bermuda greens by any stretch of the imagination, but those were shorter courses where he was able to use a lot of the overall game that he has. Has not played super well at super long courses, but the shorter ones he has been very good. Spieth is in the field this week, which is nice to see. Keegan Bradley is playing as well. Ryan Fox playing. Emiliano Grillo, our guy, Rico. Hey! JB Holmes somehow found himself in. Jake Knapp, Min Woo, Thorbjorn Olesen, Victor Perez. So all these guys directly on the precipice. I thought Lowry was playing, but maybe I have that wrong. Let's see. Shane Lowry. Yeah, Shane Lowry is playing. He's played in this tournament 3 of the past 4 years. No finish better than T23. So I guess he's just kind of committed to getting himself ramped up for the FedEx Cup playoffs. But I always just thought that was really interesting to go take a look at in terms of the guys that need to play themselves in and some of the bigger names that we're seeing in the field this week. So I have the model already preloaded for the Wyndham Championship. You can obviously make your own, save them. Strokes gained approach, 35%, par force 400 to 450, 15%, tee to green, 10%, fairways 5, proximity 150 to 175, where the plurality of the approach shots are coming from, 5%. Opportunities gained, 10%. Eagles, 5%. Putting from 5 to 10, 5%. 10 to 15, 5%. Then off the tee in general, 5% is what I have going on past 12 rounds. The winners of the power rankings for this stat model are Johnny Vegas, Keith Mitchell, Sungjae Clanton, Brian Harmon, the Gim Reaper, JJ Spawn. Spawn is someone who you would think that with the way that he's playing right now, coming into it, he's just been good, especially in those like crossover events. 23rd at the John Deere, ton of strokes on approach. The ISCO 45th, but a ton of strokes on approach. Not driving the ball particularly well. He's top 10 at the 3M, 6 strokes on approach. Just his approach game is heating up. He's gained every event since the Valspar, so almost in 4 months, the strokes on approach are there. Putting in 4 straight as well coming in. I have no idea how he's played at this tournament over the years. Probably not well. No, his best run was in 2017, the first time he had played it. Has never really figured out these greens, but he does come in putting a lot better than he normally has. So hopefully that's something that can translate through. He's not going to be very high up on the odds board. He's not going to be very expensive on DraftKings, but he is someone to keep an eye on just because you see it continues to work out for him in terms of the approach and putting, the two main things that we're looking at this week. You can see Doug Gim is kind of the opposite. I think he's played well here, though. Let's see. Nope. Wrong. Great ball striking last year, but lost 9.2 strokes putting. And the putter has flipped for him after putting really well at the beginning of the year. You can see those top 20 results pouring in. Had top 20s in 5 consecutive starts. The putter has just gone the other way for him, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Although, the approach and the putting is there, that if you think that he can turn it around, and he did putt better, it does seem, on Bermuda earlier on in the season. So you have the POA/Bermuda at Phoenix, putted well there. Pure Bermuda at Honda, putted well there. Same as the Players. And we really haven't seen Bermuda courses since, like pure Bermuda. So maybe Doug Gim is someone who can turn the putter around and match what he has been doing. We can see the ball striking stats really do love him. Akshay, he should most definitely be someone who is on your radar again this week. I could not really get it going at the 3M, and Kuchar's kind of the other way as well. Kuchar showed up at the 3M. And this is a course, 10.1 strokes on approach. As long as he hits fairways, we've seen the approach coming. We didn't see a spike that big, but normally he is someone who putts well. And at the Wyndham, he's only played it twice in his career, which is really strange considering this should be a course where he does a lot of good work. Mainly, he's won Heritage in the past. These are the types of courses where he should really play well. He's won the Players Championship. He kind of fits perfectly with the narrative of that when DL3. Davis Love III won that year as an old man. He was just able to hit his short approaches, which Matt Kuchar is doing at the moment, and be able to make a few putts, something he was not able to do to close it out at the 3M. If he had just made some putts on Sunday, he probably would have been there. Aaron Rai is another one that we should be looking at this week. CT Pan, who's having another good run at the Olympics, almost won this tournament. That was the JT Poston year, and then he won the Heritage. So you can see and he came second at the John Deere. So the 3 kind of courses that I had mentioned, Heritage, Wyndham, and John Deere, throw them all together. He has a first, second, and second at those venues. We'll take a look at John Deere very quickly right now. So Davis Thompson, Thorbjornsen, Clanton, CT Pan. There's Ben Griffin. This could be a good Ben Griffin course. Aaron Rai, and then Andrew Novak. Don't really remember where Novak is in the FedEx Cup standings. Let's see. Novak. Where are you at, Novak? He's 83rd. He needs a week here. Andrew Novak does. I would like to see him get in because I do think that he could play pretty decently at Memphis. And we've seen some crossover between Memphis and this place as well. Just we're not seeing a lot of those players in it right now. But Novak, if he could just chip, he'd be a whole lot better. But great at the John Deere. He was great at the 3M. Obviously, he didn't get himself into the Heritage this time around. How has he played at Heritage? He's never played the Heritage. At the Wyndham, he was T33 a year ago, but did improve from minus 7.6 strokes lost in 2022 to only 1.9 lost a year ago. So Novak at the back end is someone to look at as well. Silverman continues to play good golf, and this would be a great course for him. Ben Griffin, Davis Thompson, Adam Svensson. The issue might become that there's so many players in this field that you could really like that, you kind of have to pick your poison of who you do want to go with. I do want to take a longer view on some of this stuff. Let's take a look at the past 36 rounds and get more of an overview of what has happened throughout the course of the entire season. And maybe we can find some different names that pop in. So Mitchell, Rye, McClure, Messenger, Brian Harmon, Joel Damon. This should be a great Harmon course. I don't really remember Brian Harmon playing this one all that often, but this would kind of fit the mold with all of the courses that he plays well at. He's won John Deere. He played well. He was second at the Players this year. He was 10th at the RBC Heritage. So he's played all of the crossover courses very well. He was 6th here in 2019, 71st, 3rd in 2013. Never really had it going off the tee or on approach. Probably won't end up betting him, but he does fit the mold of player that we should be looking at this week. But it's mainly these two things. So par 4s, 450 to 500 yards. So that's where McClure Messenger really pops in. So it's him, Harmon, Smalley, Sungjae, Svensson, Putnam, Sloan. There's Sloan again. CT Pan, Ben Griffin, Chad Ramey, and Pearson Cody. Davis Thompson, Rio Hisatune, and then Ben Silverman is the top 15 over the past 36 rounds from the 400 to 450 yard par 4s. If we take a look at Eagles over that time, Rico Hey, Kitayama, List, Vegas, Callum Tarrant, there's Jake Knapp, Matthias Schmidt, who had a very good first 9 holes at the Olympics, and then he kind of went away. Eric Cole is down there. Not a ton of CT Pan is the name that continuously pops up. It's just how horrendous his putting has been over the longer term. But if we take a look at the shorter term, it's been a little bit better. He's one of the few players going from Paris back over to Greensboro. You see he's popped a few times this year. The approach has been really good. The chipping has been really good. And we take a look at his numbers at the Wyndham. He's made the cut every year. The approach has been really good. Even the year he came second, that's when he lost strokes putting. He's only gained strokes putting once in 5 starts. That's problematic, but you just need to catch a hot putter and all of a sudden you're off to the races at a tournament like that, at this one in particular. So I do want to go to past 24 rounds now and take a look at some of the comp courses that we're going to use. I've called them out already, but one of the great things about Fantasy National is that we can go take a look at how all of those courses rate out. I'll turn on my strokes gain model, which, as you can see, just kind of weights everything pretty evenly. Total 8% off the tee, 18, approach 30, around the green 14, 19 for putting, and then tee to green at 12%. Just to give me a just overall view, just past 24, if we're just looking at those. And sometimes this is the easiest way to do it, and it'll give you who the best players. This is how Vegas ended up popping so highly at the 3M. Rye, Thompson, Sungjae, Vegas, Harmon, top 5, Clanton, Mitchell, McIntyre, Bhatia, Ben Griffin, and then 4Chan Kim. There's Novak, there's JJ Spawn, there's McClure Messenger, Eri O is up there as well. There's CT Pan, Matt McNeely, Doug Gim, Ben Silverman, and then Shane Lowry and Matt Wallace. And then you get into your Bridgmans, Gracermans, Siwoos. I really hope they give us a fair Siwoo number this week, because there's been a few players that I'm looking at for both this week and then moving forward through the FedEx Cup playoffs. So one thing that I've noticed, obviously you can heat up and get hot through the FedEx Cup playoffs and just ride that momentum forward. But Siwoo lines up really well for this course if he goes back to playing how he was about 2 months ago, hitting all the fairways, being hot on approach. And then historically, he's putted very well on Bermuda and at this course and played all the comp courses pretty well. But through the FedEx Cup playoffs, we saw it with Victor a year ago, although he did get that win at Memorial a little bit earlier. We saw it with some of the years where Rory ended up winning, the year that Cantlay ended up winning, that just sometimes the FedEx Cup is a nice boost to the guy that has been so close all year, but never really did break through. It just feels like Morikawa is going to win the FedEx Cup. That would only make the most sense. We see if you have the Xander versus Scotty Player of the Year, what's going to be the tiebreaker? It's probably going to be the FedEx Cup. But then Morikawa ends up winning. Not to throw his name in the hat for Player of the Year. He just can't be Player of the Year. But it would just make the most sense that he seems to be the guy that people have been on the most, who has been the closest, and just never got it done. So it would make sense that he would do that during the FedEx Cup playoffs. Let's take a look at Ben Griffin here. Missed the last 2 cuts, but the approach play has been great. The around the green has been great. The putting has been great. Just hasn't really worked out for him, but did play well at Hamilton. Played pretty well at Ames, top 5 at John Deere as well. So let's take a look at those comps that I talked about. Now that we have past 24 rounds pulled up, let's go to TPC Sawgrass. We'll click that one on. We'll go to TPC Deer Run. Click that one on. Go to Harbour Town. That's with the U, by the way. Harbour Town, the old Canadian/British version. Putting the U in there, not just dropping it. And then RSM, Sea Island. We want to do the Seaside course because there's no strokes gain from the Plantation course. And they play 3 of the 4 rounds at Seaside during the RSM Classic. So let's just take a look at those. We'll throw Sedgefield out, weirdly enough. I mean, the other ones that you can throw in here if you want, Colonial, Sony, Honda, like the typical like Pete Dye type rotation of courses. But we'll take a look at an average. You see like Tyson Alexander only has 12 rounds at these courses. So average works out a little bit better. Guys that have played at the best in 4 rounds, Clanton, Springer, Thorbjornsen with 8, and McClure Messenger with 4. So those are the guys with limited exposure, but have played really well at the comps that we're looking at. After that, it's Harmon, Sungjae, Berger, Bezadenhout. Next. I mean, this would be a nice, Bez he didn't technically get a win. He got a first place paycheck at the American Express, but he didn't get the win. But he's been another player who's just played well all season long. He's someone who's had success at John Deere too, because I remember betting on him and cashing in each way on the top 5 for him 2 years ago, I want to say. Yeah, he came second in 2022. Missed the cut there a year ago, but good ball striking numbers. He's played this 3 times. Very poor ball striking numbers from him, although on paper you would think this would be a perfect course for him, just based on the way that he lines up. Fairways, wedges, that's his entire game. After that, on the other comps, Denny, Goddard, Gracerman, that's only 4 rounds. Rico, hey, in only 4 rounds. Griffin in 21 rounds. Rye, Hubbard, Spieth, Pearson, Cooney, Eric Cole, Poston, Vegas, Rogers, Grayson, Sig, EVR, Damon, Ryan Moore. There's Siwoo there as well. Rose, CT Pan, 4Chan Kim, Minwoo, and Seamus Power all kind of pop up. If we go to the overall model rank, again, I showed you what I had for my weightings, and we're just looking at these 4 courses again. So the multiple courses, you can see them on the left-hand side here: Harbor Town, Sea Island, TPC Deer Run, and Sawgrass. If we could throw Wyndham into that as well if you really want to get a true like course history and comp course put into it. But the model will give us Sungjae, Harmon, Berger, who's been terrible, by the way, since coming back from it, like truly bad. And you have the name recognition. You think that he's going to break through. And I hope that he does, because I like Daniel Berger. But he has been legit awful. Only the U.S. Open. And Byron Nelson. Like, he's been bad since then. He even missed at the Barracuda, which is not great, Bob. So, Harmon, Berger, Hubbard, Bez, McCarthy, Spieth, Rye, Sig, Eric Cole, Ben Griffin. Then Ryan Moore, Thorbjornsen, CT Pan, Damon Siwoo, Lowry, EVR, Power, Troy Merritt, Vegas, Cam Smith. There's Fenson, Smalley, Poston and Rose, Clanton, Dylan Wu. There's Doug Gim. JJ Spahn was a name that we talked about earlier. He's still inside the top 40. Glover and Keegan Bradley are there as well. I could see Keegan playing really well here. I bet on Keegan at 3M. Didn't really work out all that well, but just he couldn't get anything going any of the days. And he has not really played particularly well since Charles Schwab. But again, that's another shorter course. Played well there. How has he done? How did he do at the Players? He missed the cut at the Players. That's not great. But another Sony would be another one that you'd almost put in alignment with this. Came in second there. So he's played well at some of the weaker field events. This one's stronger than the typical weak field event, but nonetheless is one where he should be able to make some bones at this course. Harris English is playing, as is Adam Hadwin. They rate out pretty well for this, but not particularly great. Where was Ben Silverman? I just like Ben Silverman. Of all the Canadian guys, just he seems like such a jabroni that it'd be funny. He seems like the worst version of Brian Harmon, which could make you good at this course, but it's just fairways, it's a bunch of wedges, and can you get super hot with the putter? That seems to be his entire skill set. Maybe a better first-round leader bet than anything else, but I always just thought that he was a little bit interesting. Okay, it's time to guess the odds for the Wyndham Championship. This is one of the most difficult guess the odds that I've done all year, because I have no idea who's going to be the favorite. And like, how does Clanton and Thorbjornsen come into this mix? No idea. So here's what I went with. I think that Sungjae is going to be the favorite at 16-1. Then I have no other players lower than 20. There probably will be one, but I don't know who it's going to be. So I put Akshay, Spieth, and Lowry all at 22-1. Min Woo at 25-1. Bobby Mack at 28-1. Harmon at 30. And then Cam Young, Woo, and Billy Horschel all at 33-1. Keegan Bradley and Aaron Rye at 40-1 is what I'm going with. I'm guessing Clanton probably opens at, I don't know if they're going to try to protect themselves from Clanton. He's been a favorite, flamed out. Obviously, did he end up missing the cut at the 3M? Don't even remember. But he and Thorbjornsen will have the shine off of them with some of the bigger names at this tournament. So I'm guessing they both open in that. Like Clanton will be 45 or 50. Thorbjornsen will be 80, 90, 100, whatever it is. I like Spawn and CT Pan as probably guys that open in that like 90 to 125 range if you want to jump on that early. I would guess that they'll probably be pretty popular selections going into the week. So the earlier you can bet them, the better number that you're going to get. Unless I'm dead wrong and it goes back the other way, then you can blame me for that one. All right? Use fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy will get you a deposit bonus of up to $250 and play in that PME Cup. I just walked you through how some of the results have went, how to have some strategy for that tournament of drafting FedEx Cup players. Plus, there's Pick'em every single round on Underdog for every single sport. So you should probably jump in because football is coming very soon. All right? Smash the like while you're here. Sub to Mayo Media Network. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. And I will see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!